Hey everybody, tonight we're just going to do a simple feeding video on my native tank here. I've had a busy day. It's almost 8 o'clock and I'm just now getting in here to get everybody fed, so I still haven't even had my dinner yet. We're going to start with just throwing some freeze-dried krill in. And then I'll throw some algae wafers in. Try to spread it around enough that it just doesn't get all devoured in one shot, and some of it gets spread around the tank a little bit, down to the bottom maybe. Throw a handful of algae wafers in. I try to break them up so that they're in varying size pieces. I try to put some fairly large size pieces in so they actually make it to the bottom without getting picked up by the small fish on the way down. But I've got all flux grazing fish, I've got algae eating fish, and plant eating fish like my tilapia there in the far right corner. I'm probably standing in the way of it right now. But the tilapia eats a lot of vegetation, so I like throwing plenty of algae wafers in there just so I can know that tilapia's got plenty of food. And then of course I have that Hi Fin Spotted Pleco, I've got the Chinese Algae Eater, I've got those white sucker fish, which I assume probably eat a lot of everything off the bottom, not just the algae and the vegetation, but they're probably just bottom feeders in general. So I'm going to let that tank do its thing for a few minutes while you enjoy, and then I'm going to go around and get the rest of the room fed. I just went around yesterday and did a water change on every single tank in this room except for my snail tank. I didn't even think about the snail tank until after I was done, and of course it doesn't really matter. The snail tank barely even counts. I did have someone ask me recently how I breed my snails and grow my snails. You can do it in a bucket. You don't even need water circulation or anything. You know, a stagnant bucket might start to stink after a while, but the snails will be just fine in it. You can do, you know, dump the bucket out and refill it every few days. The only thing you really need to make sure for the snails is you've got to have a lot of calcium in the water for their shells, calcium and magnesium. So hard water, or I put some cuttle bones in. You can throw some eggshells in there, crushed coral, aragonite, you know, any kind of stuff like that that puts calcium in it, and that's about it. And then just throw a lot of fish food and stuff in there, and you'll have snails growing and breeding like crazy. Again, it's not challenging. The way I breed mine, they're in a little, it's a little mini bow is the name of the aquarium. It's a little 5-gallon sort of, meant to be on your desk in your office or something like that. It's got a little sort of built-in filter in the lid. And it's too small to really keep any fish in unless you really want to have a really nano aquarium with a few little tiny endlers and stuff like that or something, you know, maybe some small shrimp. But for me, it works perfectly for the right size for just having snails growing in there, and I don't really, you know, no fuss, no muss. So snails are about the only thing that could possibly be easier to keep than crayfish. Started to put food in the quarantine tank as though I still had a bunch of fish in the quarantine tank, but I finally got most of them moved out. I had one remaining Corydoras in there. All the other Corys had already come out and gone into my gourami tank, and I missed one. So that one finally came out and got over into the gourami tank, so now that's with all the others. And then I had a bunch of silver hatchet fish that were in there waiting for quarantine because one of them had ick when I brought him home from the aquarium store. So once I made sure that the ick treatment had gone through and everybody was okay from that, I finally was able to get them out of the tank and get them into the my T-bar tank. So now I got, let's see, 1, 2, looks like 7 or maybe 8 hatchet fish in there now. So I got a nice little school going. I have also spent a good portion of this afternoon tinkering around with some lighting on some various tanks, so I will have some video coming up really shortly. Again, I just didn't really have time to get down here today to get much done, so I'm not going to try to rush through slapping some project together just to shoot a video this time of night, and you'll just have to make do with having a feeding video. And it looks like the whole feeding is over, but I can actually come over here and zoom in a little bit. Hang on a minute. I looked over at one moment and saw a crayfish sticking its face out, and now I'm seeing this Hi Fin Spotted Pleco. Its colors are really starting to change as it's getting bigger. I'm really digging this fish. There's a little crayfish sticking his face out. Really liking this fish. Not sure what happened to its tail fin, but that's probably just going to always look like that. That'll just be some character for this fish. So we've already seen that little crayfish sticking his face out. Come down here, we'll see if we can see anybody else. I don't see anybody home, but you can tell pretty clearly that that's somebody's little crayfish house. And I can see some movement through the greenery over there. I'm just not sure what it is. Now I see some of those rosy-side dace swimming around. It's probably was them. I can definitely see under there. There's definitely some fish darting and dashing and swimming around underneath of there. So that's all that is. It's a shame it's kind of stopped. I guess it's grown wide enough, or actually it probably came in contact with the temple plant right there. But the floating water sprite there was sort of spinning and rotating because of the power head I've got over here, and it was more or less rotating in front of that first beam there. And from the position, the point of view of down here, what you were seeing was like light and shadow, and it was moving around, and it was just a really nice dapple sunlight effect. It really did look like, sunlight shining down through the tree branches and the leaves moving around. So it just started moving again, so who knows if maybe it'll break loose and drift over to where I want it to be. Let's see if we can encourage it a little bit. Push it on down there. So if it gets to twirling, you wind up with a really nice effect down here. So you can see how it's light and shadow and getting brighter and dimmer. Definitely enjoy the floating water sprite. And don't forget, I sell this now, so check my Gmail in the description below if you're interested in buying any of this floating water sprite or Java Fern. I got tons and tons of Java Fern I've got for sale too. So hit me up down in my email and I will contact you, or you can contact me or whatever, and then we'll go from there. Alright everybody, I'm going to call it good and go on and get my dinner now. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget, this one is my 125 gallon native tank. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you real soon in the next one.